Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, viewers from all over the world, and our live audience here. Welcome to our featured bout. In the green corner, weighing in at 10 tracks, Songs of Surrender Side 4. From the greatest band in the world, the ninth wonder of the world, the master of disaster, U2. And in the gold corner, weighing in at 10 songs, Songs of Surrender, Side 1. From Dublin's Fighting Four, U2. Let's get ready to ramble.
And here we are, folks. We are now down to the final battle. Side 1 versus Side 4. U2 Songs of Surrender. Let's hear what Richard has to say for our pre-fight analysis.
Okay, here we are at the finals of the Songs of Surrender tournament, and we've got Side 1 versus Side 4. The number system, pretty much the same, but I have added in their performance in the previous round, so we've got something besides the original tracks. But this is still mostly based on the original tracks, and according to the numbers, this should be a straight-up victory for Side 1. Now, after last week's performance of the numbers, and having really gone over that fight, don't count out Side 4, though. So this is just the numbers from the original songs. Look for potential KOs in rounds 2, 5, and 9 for Side 1. For Side 4, potential KO in round 3. And some potential split rounds and rounds that could make this a closer fight and maybe even a split decision. Rounds 1 and round 6 are really, really tough. I'm going to guess this is going to be Side 1 with probably a more narrow victory than the numbers give. Back to you guys.
Okay, so predicting a close fight. Let's see how things turn out. We did names from a hat again for our judge order. Our first judge up is going to be Chris. And we have round 1, which would be 1 originally from Acting Baby going up against With or Without You, originally from the Joshua Tree. Chris, take it away.
Yeah, so right off the bat, we have a close round. And throughout this battle, for me, it was a contest of songs that were like acoustic renditions, so reworked but more of acoustic rendition, versus songs that were almost completely reimagined, right? And this first round was one of those contests where one was completely reimagined, like it doesn't sound anything like its original version. With or Without You sounds a little bit more like an acoustic version of the studio version. And for me, With or Without You, I mean, it's arguably U2's best song. It's arguably U2's most recognizable song, and it's missing something here. Edge said songs are indestructible, and he's right from a certain perspective. But With or Without You, the thing about With or Without You, one of the things about With or Without You is the sound. And part of that sound comes from the infinite guitar, and I miss that infinite guitar here. Like it's that one element that distinguishes this song from any other song, I don't know, pretty much ever, right? And so and one on the other hand, I thought was a wonderful reimagining of the original version. It was something that was unexpected for me. It took a little time for it to grow on me, but in terms of this first round, I think one is a better reimagining than With or Without You is an acoustic version. So I give this first round to disc 1. 1 takes it 10-9.
Perfect. Yeah. 1 is really growing on me a lot as well. I agree completely with you. And Tony, you're up second. Let's see what Tony has to say, whether he agrees or not.
So I completely agree with Chris's assessment of the tracks, right? The reimagining versus just the acoustic. But I went the other way. I went with Without You. And the reason why I did that is because when I listened to these tracks the first time, the fact that With or Without You stayed kind of more aligned to the original, I liked that. I really liked this version, a little bit stripped down. Don't get me wrong, I liked the reimagining of One. I thought it was very it was very unique, especially to hear it from a band from U2 themselves. Whereas we've heard cover versions before that have been reinterpreted that are pretty good. To hear U2 take a whole new take on this was good. But I really like With or Without You. I've always liked that song. Like Chris said, this is one of their most famous songs. So I gave it 10-9 to the one from the Joshua Tree.
So a dissenting voice already. We're off to a great start.
I don't know how that is with Chris's pedigree. I don't know, man. I feel like maybe
don't let Chris
let
Chris intimidate you. He puts his pants on one leg at a time,
ringer,
just like the rest of us. Todd, take us home on round one here. What do you say about this round?
Yeah, this was a really close one, honestly. I remember I went back and changed it 3 times, and it was different in my notes than it was on the scorecard, and so it indicates there's a lot of struggle there. So so one, I like that song a lot. I thought, it's interesting what Chris said about like a demo scaled down version versus like a rebuild it from the ground up version, and that's something I couldn't quite articulate. I understand exactly what you're saying. I wish that I could have brought that to the forefront, and that is what's going on here. I think One is really good. I think that Adam Clayton's bass playing is really, really good on this. I'm not crazy about the choir with it. I like the piano banging that I think last time I said reminded me of Hurt, the Johnny Cash cover, where he just bangs like that. So it was very, evocative kind of that way. With or Without You, I think Bono did a great job on this with his singing, and his phrasing is so sophisticated sometimes. So he's a little bit early on some words, a little bit late on some words. How he mixes up the phrasing, kind of like a Sinatra kind of way, I thought was really good. And the layering was very good. And then when you get to the chorus and the thing's building, you feel like it was earned. A lot of these songs, you'll hear me say, have climaxes or crescendos that don't feel as earned as other ones. This one certainly does. So very, very close. I changed it, but ultimately I went with One.
Okay, so not unanimous, but one takes round one, unironically. And that takes us over to round two, where Where the Streets Have No Name from Joshua Tree, of course, going up against Stay Far Away So Close from the criminally underrated Zooropa. Tony.
All right. So so we've got a song from the Joshua Tree, which is in my top 2 of U2 albums, right? Versus the album that I tapped out on U2 the first time. And so Stay, when that song first came out, and I know this is like, it's a little unfair, but it's still part of my story here with this fight. When I first heard that song, when it came out, I was like, it was a whole lot of meh to me. This version turned me around. I really like this version. I thought that it was, I felt like Bono, when I was listening in my headphones, I felt Bono was like just talking to me, and that was really cool. I really liked that. Where the Streets Have No Name, though, that's once again, that's in my top 5 of U2 songs. I love the beginning of that song in the original, where it just the guitar just comes in and it's that distinct U2 tone, right? And it just boom, 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 and then it's like, here we go, we're on, and Bono starts singing, and I could kind of hear that in my mind when I was listening to this song. I think Where the Streets Have No Name is an incredible track. I gave this round to Streets.
Okay. And Todd, you're second this round. Sorry.
All right. No, that's fine. I'm going to start with Stay. First of all, Stay has entirely too much punctuation for a song title. There's like parentheses and commas and exclamation point. I would think that by this time they would know better about that. But I like this song a lot, and I wasn't familiar with it. I'm not familiar with Zooropa all that well. And I was reading about it. It said it was inspired by Frank Sinatra, which I don't pick up on any of that. They said maybe the chord progression a little bit, but I was having trouble with that. Anyway, I liked it. And I like the singing. I think Bono kind of reminded me of Nick Cave, kind of circa murder ballads with, kind of dipping down into the low parts of his register. And I thought that was really good. The topic of the song makes me a little bit uncomfortable, and it seemed like maybe it's verging a little bit on victim blaming or whatever, but I was trying to, excise all that from my thoughts about the song. But so that's that song. Where the Streets Have No Name, I was reading about this, that Brian Eno was going to give it the second arrangement treatment and erase the tapes like the Steely Dan song. And I'm glad that he didn't, but I didn't like this version of it as much. It didn't sound like the same. Maybe I was just too familiar with Streets and more familiar with Stay, but I wound up giving this to Stay 10-9.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you with Streets, where it's hard for me to forget about the original and I just miss the guitar. Chris, take us home on this one.
Well, that's where I'll start. Streets is my favorite song, period. Full stop. It's not just my favorite song by U2. It's my favorite pop song, rock song, period. If I had one piece of rock to listen to for the rest of my life, it would be this song. But this arrangement doesn't do it for me because the power, the expanse of that song, which comes from the mix of the layers, but primarily from Edge's echo-laden guitar, is not there. And this was an acoustic reworking, and I get it. So, you're not going to have the same effects. But Streets is about a big idea, right? You're talking about a place that is so big, it's so expansive, it's so vast to comprehend that we can't even name it, right? And this song, this arrangement didn't have the power that idea reflects. On the other hand, Stay, this arrangement of Stay is like was mentioned earlier, is very, very intimate, which I think aligns closely with the message of the original song, but also it works well with this arrangement. It feels like Bono was on a bar stool singing next to me, singing to me. And I absolutely love that. Both of these were reworkings of their originals. And as much as I love the original of Streets, this version of Stay is far better. So I gave this round to Stay 10-9.
All right, fair enough. So we have another split. This time, Stay wins, but not unanimous. So let's head into round 3, where we have Stories for Boys, one of their oldest original songs from 1980s Boy, going up against a classic, Sunday Bloody Sunday, originally from 1983's War. And Todd, you finally get to go first.
All right, thank you. So yeah, I want to say something about, people are talking about how it's it's like a more intimate version of these songs. And what I said in my original notes when I was on the previous album fight is I think this was mixed for AirPods, versus a stadium or versus car stereo. I put this originally, I listened to it, with my TV soundbar, and my little subwoofer, and I was like, what is this? This is like music you play to your fetus because Mozart is not edgy enough or something, and then I put in my AirPods and suddenly it's like right there, the way it's mixed, especially a lot of times Bono is right in the center, no reverb, dry, he's just sitting there licking your eardrums, and I think it's a lot of conscious choices in how they, in part of the reimagining of this is sort of the production and the space of a lot of this stuff. Anyway, getting into the songs, I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, for Sunday Bloody Sunday, it's one of my all-time favorite songs by them. And my general rule is if I'm at a gathering or a party, if somebody breaks out an acoustic guitar, then I leave at that point. That's like the time to leave. And but I think if somebody played this, I think I would stay. Like if this was what somebody got out the guitar and started doing, I'd be okay with that. I think it's just really, really good. He was 23 years old, 22 when he wrote this. It's almost a perfect war song. Sorry, anti-war song, not war song. And and it's just the anger and the hopelessness, and I guess he wrote it all from one point of view, and then kind of without both siding it, did just a really good job. Just, everything's great about it. Just howling lyrics, the instrumentation, the guitar work, everything. And also listening to the acoustic version, I realized how many of the lyrics I had wrong. I had like no idea what they were singing. I still liked it a lot though, which is a good testament. And then Stories for Boys, you know, I like the album Boy a lot, and I totally forgot that this was even on it. I think, is Edge singing on this? Did we discuss that? I think it's Edge singing.
It is Edge singing, yeah.
Yeah, so it grew on me, and I really liked it, and it kind of reminded me of Mad Mad World, that acoustic version of the Tears for Fears song. But anyway, I'm giving it to Sunday Bloody Sunday. It's too good, even though Stories for Boys is really good too.
Yeah, this was a tight one for, I think, everybody. I know it was for me. Chris, was this a tight round for you too?
Yes.
You as well?
Hey. Yeah. Yes, this was a tight round. I mean, okay, so if you take just the originals, obviously Sunday Bloody Sunday, I mean, this is a walk, right? Because Sunday Bloody Sunday is one of U2's best. And this arrangement is fine, but we've kind of heard this arrangement before. Like if they did something similar to this on Pop, on the Pop Mart tour, right? Where Edge walks out to the B stage and just plays this thing solo with an acoustic guitar, and it's one of the most powerful live things I've ever seen in my life, because it's this anti-war song, and it's one man with an acoustic guitar in a sea of 85,000 people playing a song that usually has martial drums, which is awesome. And this arrangement on Songs of Surrender, I think it faithfully recaptures a little bit of that energy from the Pop Mart tour. But the Stories for Boys reimagining, where it's really just a solo piano and Edge singing. First of all, this is track 3, and Edge is all lead vocals. Like when I pressed play for the first time, I was like, that's Edge, right? Like right there. I was like, this arrangement automatically gets points for me, because switching the vocalist automatically does something for changing the arrangement and does something for this is a reimagining of this song. And I think Edge does a wonderful job. I think Edge's vocal quality is highly underrated, obviously because he's in Bono's shadow. But I think what he does on this song, both vocally and from an arrangement perspective, I thoroughly enjoyed. So I gave this 10-9 Stories for Boys.
He could be a lead singer for any other band in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed.
But that's a big shadow to stand in. Okay, Tony, take us home on this one.
All right, so this was probably, I think this was the most difficult round for me, because Sunday Bloody Sunday is so iconic, right? And so it's like, wow, it kind of already comes into the fight with all the reputation, and like it's this great anti-war song. This version of Stories for Boys was incredible. Boy is turning into my favorite U2 album, more than the Joshua Tree, just because I love the power of it. I love the rawness of it. And when I heard this version of Stories for Boys, I was like, whoa, this thing is like stripped down, but it was powerful and perfect for me. I loved every part of it. So I gave this one 10-9 to Stories for Boys. Not so much that Sunday Bloody Sunday is bad, but Stories for Boys was so much better. It was wonderful. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, it was kind of an 11-11 for me. But you have to pick a winner. We always have to pick a winner. Okay, this takes us into round 4. Round 4, where we have 11 O'Clock TikTok, which was a non-album single, Pre-Boy, going up against Lights of Home from Songs of Experience. And here in round 4, we're going to do a little bit more time with our judges. So we're going to start off with Chris, who's going to be our first judge this round. Chris is an associate professor of music at the Bauer School of Music and Arts at Florida Gulf Coast University, where he teaches the core music theory sequence as well as other music analysis courses. He holds a doctorate in music theory, and his dissertation was Form and Style in the Music of U2. So we affectionately call him Professor U2 around here.
I love it. I'll take it.
Love having Chris on Album Fight. So Chris, Anything else you want to say about the fight itself before we get into the score for round 4?
This was sides 1 and 4 were the closest to me. Like I did various permutations, different fights on my own, and sides 1 and 4 were by far the closest. 2 and 3 were I think in and of themselves a little bit more uneven. 1 and 4 I think were much more solid from top to bottom, and these reimaginings are really growing on me. Songs of Surrender is really growing me. I was really worried. I was anxious about this album because, as really, true diehard fans, we don't ever want this band's music to suck, and I was scared that I was like, oh God, they're gonna murder Streets. Like it's gonna ruin it. But these haven't ruined anything actually. And, they have me listening to the originals with a different ear now, which that's always fun.
Yeah, no, I agree completely, man. This has been so much fun, just spending a lot of time with these albums. So
yeah,
let's get into round 4 itself with your score, Chris.
All right. So it's 11 o'clock TikTok versus Lights of Home. 11 o'clock TikTok is not really a song that I paid a lot of attention to. It plays when I play the albums and when I play the YouTube catalog, but it's not necessarily a song that I go after. Lights of Home, it's a newer song. It's fresher in my mind. It's also a song that I really, really like. So this was interesting. Both of these arrangements are like stripped down and down tempo versions of them. And the Lights of Home was fine. It was fine. Nothing bad about it. But the 11 o'clock TikTok version here works better for me. I think that the difference in tempo and mood on here just works a little bit better than Lights of Home. So I give it 10-9, 11 o'clock TikTok.
All right. Awesome. Tony, you are up next, my friend, and welcome back to Album Fight. Tony's now doing his 8th album fight. The last one Tony was in was actually the last one we did before we got pandemicked out of existence for a couple of years, which was Fall Out Boy versus the Police, which hopefully Pete can post. Post a link to that. That was a fun one. It was the last one we did before the pandemic. So welcome back, my friend. It's been a while. I missed you.
Yeah, for sure, Mike. That one was fun. I remember that one. It's that's one of my guilty pleasure bands right there is Fall Out Boys.
Yeah,
so,
it was a fun one.
I enjoyed that.
So before we go into your score for round 4, what did you think when we tapped you to come in for Songs of Surrender?
So it was interesting for me because, well, at first when I heard that Chris was doing it, I was like, oh my gosh, I better know my stuff here because, I'm really looking forward to reading his paper because, and especially more now because I'm not a hardcore U2 guy. I've gone into their catalog and like I said, I tapped out in the mid 90s. I don't know if it was just the whole Zooropa thing or if it was, I just got into grunge a little bit more, but when they came back in 2000, I got back into them again. And I really appreciated the How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb album. I thought this would be pretty cool because I'm not a U2 apologist. I'm not I've never seen them live. I've watched the videos on YouTube, but I thought this would be very interesting for me and a good way to get back into their catalog, into the deep stuff.
Yeah, I put together a playlist that has the Songs of Surrender and then the original back to back, which I shared out on social media, and I've been listening to it a ton. Gives me a new appreciation for the reworked songs and a renewed appreciation for the originals. But let's hear your appreciation on round 4 here. So TikTok versus Lights of Home.
So 11 o'clock TikTok I was a little bit familiar with because when we got sent home and everything, I started digging into the early U2, and so I was familiar with it. Lights of Home not so much because I hadn't listened to that album yet, and so I think I was still kind of like a little upset that they broke into my phone a bunch of years ago and threw music in there. So,
the greatest crime ever.
Yeah, right. It's like, why can't police break into a phone? You two did it. I really like 11 o'clock TikTok. I like the groove of it. On this version though, Lights of Home just blew me away. I really liked this version. It grabbed me. I don't know what I think it was the lyrics and the melody I appreciated very much. Like I said, I wasn't familiar with the original version, so this was one of my first exposures to the song. I really liked it. I gave this one to Lights at Home 10-9.
Awesome. I think Lights of Home is probably my favorite song from Songs of Experience, and it's moving up in the 40 songs of Songs of Surrender. It's just growing on me every time I hear it. I want to hear it again. Finally, let's move over to Todd. Todd is now in his 15th album fight, which puts him in rare air of only being beat by the hosts of the Break It Down show in more appearances as a judge. So
yes, I'm the
obviously
McLean
Todd
Stevenson of album fights.
Yes, obviously Todd is a huge music fan, or he wouldn't do this. So Todd, welcome back, and again, you already did one of the earlier fights. You did 1 versus 2. So heading into this one, what did you think?
I really liked it. Yeah, when Pete texted me a couple days ago and said, what about versus 4? Side 1 versus side 4, and I thought, I just assumed side 4 would be like 1:45 and Saturday Night Live, like all the weird shit, that would the experimental Fred Armisen, sketches, and but actually it's very, very strong. And then it occurred to me, if anybody knows how to close a show or close something, it's U2, right? So it makes sense that the stronger stuff would be on 1 and 4 versus 2 and 3. So it was good. I was really surprised by a lot of the stuff I liked and this album fight, I was a little bit different. I'll usually listen to it once for lyrics and singing, once for the kind of arrangement and structure, once for the kind of chords, what's going on. And then I'll start researching it. This time I just listened once, maybe not even once. And then I made my decision very quickly. Then I went back and tried to justify that. And what was interesting was I found if you kind of divide U2 into 3 groups, let's say, or like 3 kind of periods, like I don't know, Boyd, Unforgettable Fire, maybe Joshua Tree to Atomic Bomb, and then sort of like the later albums. I think the middle period I don't like as much. The earlier I really love, and they seem to always win. And the later ones, which I hadn't heard of most of them, they tended to win too. And I'm not quite sure why that is. Everybody I think was saying that they like, or you're saying that you like the earlier albums from U2, and REM was kind of the same way. Those first 3 albums are just perfect, and then they got real anthem-y or real like stadium-y, and then I just kind of parted ways with. Always loved them, but not as much. Those first 3 albums really hit me, just the same way with U2. So kind of jumping into the scoring, this is like kind of a they're like 34 years apart, right? These 2 records, and kind of thematically, one is sitting at a cramp show feeling disaffected and alienated from the audience. One is refining your faith after a near-death experience, right? so one is like too cool for school. The other one is like, shit, I'm glad to be alive. So it's exactly, you couldn't get 2 more opposite songs. And I really like 11 O'Clock TikTok. I like pretty much all of the early U2, and this one is great. I have a note saying it sounds like really good hold music for this version of 11 O'Clock TikTok. Something to think about. Lights of Home I wasn't familiar with, but it's really good. And, it's Edge is such a good guitarist. And he's just playing this kind of simple 4-chord pattern, but just the way he's just kind of voicing it and moving it and kind of throwing in little suspensions or whatever, it sounds like it's more that there's more going on than just that. I think that's kind of what U2 is so good at, especially Edge, is making relatively simple figures sound more complicated or more interesting maybe than they would be from another band. And then it kind of jumps and he's talking about all this stuff. And then at the end, there's an outro that's amazing. It just kind of jumps from that minor key to the major key. I don't know. Chris, would you call that a Picardy third? Kind of a.
Yeah, I mean, from a global perspective, I guess you could call it. Sure.
Yeah, it's like a Picardy.
I'll give it to you.
And so, but that's what really it got me, and so that really, really worked for me. And sorry if I'm going on too much, but I really like that. But so this was very, very, very close. I liked them both a lot. for different reasons, whatever. But I guess because I don't want to admit my mortality, I'm going to go with 11 o'clock TikTok.
So round 4 is yet another split round, 2-1 for 11 o'clock TikTok. I expect more split rounds as we continue into round 5, where we've got Out of Control, another way old song from Boy and originally from U2-3, their first EP, going up against a very new song, Cedarwood Road from Songs of Innocence originally. And Tony, you're up first this round.
Okay, so Cedarwood Road, I like this. Once again, not super familiar with the original. Listened to it. It was good. The remake, I liked it. I loved. I wrote in my notes that I loved how loud this song was for an acoustic track, and I think that goes back to Todd's point about how the way that these songs were mixed, it may have been mixed specifically for headphone usage or AirPods, because that's how I listened to it the first time, and I was like, whoa, this is like really, really loud, and I liked it. Out of Control is that's exactly that. That's a perfect description for that song. I love the lyrics in that song. I think it's a great, to me, I take that song as a great coming of age song. It's just a banger, I think. That whole first album, like I mentioned earlier, it's so raw. Like, I just love the sound. It's like that band is just, you can tell that they're going to explode. It's just, it's when and not if. And yeah, I gave it. Now, in this particular instance, I gave this one to Out of Control.
Okay, Todd, you are up second this round. Out of Control or Cedarwood Road?
All right. Well, I went, just to cut to any suspense, I went with Cedarwood Road. I like that song. And, I was talking about how these songs sort of build to a crescendo. There's only so much you can do acoustically to kind of do that, And I felt like this one felt really earned. It felt really good. It's Bono, again, looking back on his life. And it's interesting, a kid who grew up in the Troubles, and he's saying, I still need an enemy. It's really kind of powerful stuff, I felt. And I like that. I like, of course, Boy is probably what, one of my favorite albums that they did. This is the one I didn't like the falsettos going on. It took me out of the song. My notes, I said, this is the first one I feel that didn't even touch the original. Like, it's just, I would rather listen to the original anytime over this version. And that's not always true for a lot of these. So 37 years apart, but I think that the newer song won Cedarwood Road.
All righty. So Chris, take us home on this round 5.
Yeah. Both of these songs, both of their original versions, I really, really like. Cedarwood Road, I think, is one of their better songs from their modern era. I think it's wonderfully descriptive of where they come from and the energy of the original, the sound of the original, and it works so well live with Bono like walking in that screen. It was beautiful, and this version on Songs of Surrender was fine. But I have a special connection with Out of Control. I was on staff with at U2 when U2 was playing Madison Square Garden for their Innocence and Experience tour, and we were having an at U2 staff party at this club called the Cutting Room, and Edge and Adam showed up unexpectedly to us, and they played 2 songs with the tribute band, and one of the songs they played was Out of Control, and you could hear me on the YouTube video in the background losing my mind, like I'm in real time. You could hear my sanity like slowly leaking out of my ears because I was just losing my mind, because I was like, Edge was like right there and Adam was like right there. Anyway, getting to the Songs of Surrender stuff. Both of these are acoustic reimaginings, but I kind of like what Out of Control did with this one. I liked that it was more out there than it was more. It was more of a reimagining than just a stripped down acoustic set. So I gave this 10-9 to Out of Control.
All right, that takes us to the halfway point. That's right, folks. We are through round 5 and just about to start round 6. And as I always do, I will do a quick recap. So right now, looking at the scorecard, we have a slight lead, 3 whole points for side one, which is basically 1 point per judge. However, side one has taken 4 rounds to 1 against side 4. So Richard's assessment that 1 is a little stronger than 4 is kind of bearing out, but the points are really very, very even. So it's anyone's game as we head into round 6. That's right. We've got 2 amazing songs going head to head here. We've got Beautiful Day. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. One of my favorite songs, not just U2, but any song. Going up against I Will Follow, a seminal U2 song from 1980s Boy. Tough round. Todd, you get to start. Lucky
All
guy.
right. This was maybe not as close as I originally would have thought, knowing what the 2 songs were. I'll start with Beautiful Day. Some of the arrangement choices I didn't like that much, like the second vocals, and again, this is another one where Bono's like right there in your face, like barstool next to you, whispering right in both ears. I really think that the bass playing, Adam Clayton's bass playing is amazing. It gets more and more complex. He plays these beautiful little counter melodies as he's going on and on. It's really amazing work, and I would say I underestimate him sometimes as a bassist. I Will Follow. This is after Gloria. This is probably my favorite U2 song. I think it's great. It passes the Tom Waits test of being able to play it and screaming while driving down the road 80 miles an hour. So it easily passes that test to be great music. The lyrics are great. It's like so, simple words, simple stuff, but very, very profound, which again, Bono only gets better at. I predict great things for this band based on this early song of it. I think it's from the mom or about the mom. It's not really clear. Like the voice and the point of view shifts around. It's an incredible work of art. And anyway, one thing it reminds me is that if you want to be a rock star, you either need to spend half your childhood in the hospital, or you need your mom to die in your early teens. And so when my son started to get into music, I offered him either one, if he would pick, and he never got back to me on that. But you can see the effect that this has on the people. You look at the Beatles, like 2 of them, their moms died early, and the other 2 were in the hospital all the time, and it just seems to be a weird thread in all the music bios that I've read. But anyway, if you're listening, Matt, there's still time. So I wound up going with I Will Follow. I just think it's an amazing song, an amazing version.
Okay, one judge for I Will Follow. Chris, you are next.
Yeah, both of these songs are they're foundational songs in U2's catalog, right? I Will Follow was the lead single from their first album. It's the one that officially got their career started, and Beautiful Day is the single that heralded their return from their experimental 90s, right? So it's the track and the album that hooked old fans back, right? After they got to experiment with all those buttons and wires and knobs in the 90s. That said, Beautiful Day is like Streets. Beautiful Day is a song about a big idea, right? And it's a song that needs a big arrangement. And this arrangement was, again, I don't have a problem necessarily with the arrangement, but because it's an acoustic reimagining, then necessarily some of the inherent power and some of the inherent depth that is present in the studio version in spades is nowhere to be found here, simply because the medium is different. And I think that takes away a little bit from this arrangement. Now, I Will Follow is not a quiet song either, but it approaches its idea a little bit differently from Beautiful Day on this arrangement. And I think this arrangement is an outstanding acoustic arrangement, because this acoustic arrangement, it sounds like the studio version. And that's really hard to do with, it's hard to replicate an electric sound with an acoustic instrument. But if there's anybody who can alter timbre and who can mess with the timbre of a guitar to make it sound like something it's not supposed to sound like, it is Mr. The Edge. And with these two arrangements, I have to give it to I Will Follow, 10-9.
Yeah, what you said there just kind of resonated for me, because when I heard I Will Follow for the first time, I just thought, wow, this is a banger. I mean, this really, for a stripped down acoustic version, really just cooks. And they really captured the original so well with I Will Follow. Tony, you are going to take us home here on round 6. I've interrupted enough.
Let's just bring out the brooms, because I feel the exact same way. I Will Follow, like that song leading off Boy is perfect, just perfect in every way. And yes, like Chris said, Beautiful Day is like that, the comeback song, right? But the way that they reimagined this version of I Will Follow, and I use reimagine like that because it still sounds hard and heavy, and I really like that. So I Will Follow.
We have our first sweep, as Tony alluded. Get the broom out. We have a unanimous round 6 here, and this takes us into round 7, where we have Bad from Unforgettable Fire. It's an amazing song, going up against a really coolly reimagined Two Hearts Beat as One, originally from War. And Chris is jazzed here. He gets to start us off.
And Pete's comments here, round 7 might be the best round of the entire fight series. I 100% agree with that. This was the closest round out of any of the permutations that I did with the fight, and here's why. First of all, I mean, Bad, the original version of Bad, again, that's a foundational U2 song. And what they did on this arrangement is phenomenal. This acoustic arrangement of Bad was like the acoustic arrangement of I Will Follow. It was so faithful to the original. It even had an echo effect on that acoustic guitar, and the slight change in lyrics that Bono incorporates was perfect. And when I saw this lineup, I was like, well, if anything goes up against Bad, it's going to lose, because Bad is it's Bad, right? And Bad is one of those songs that I think any arrangement of it, with or without the echo, I think would be phenomenal. Bad is one of those indestructible songs, I think, that Edge is talking about. However, I am jazzed, I am psyched to sing the praises of Two Hearts Beat as One, of this arrangement of Two Hearts Beat as One. This is the best arrangement of the entire 4-side set. Folks, you heard it here first. Two Hearts Beat as One, when this song started, I like when that piano comes in and it's so groovy. It's so funky, and it sounds like 70s punk. It sounds like pre-punk. So U2 went in a time machine and traveled back to before they were born, right? And turns a post-punk song from 1983 into a 1974 like walking down the street, just like swinging your hips banger. I mean, Edge does a phenomenal job with this one. It's my favorite arrangement on this entire album, which is what made this round so close. This is going to shock a lot of people, but I had to give this to Two Hearts Beat as One, 10-9.
Fair enough. Adam's bass line. Maybe I'm taken away from somebody that comes next. I'm not going to say any more other than the bass line from this song has always been great. I think we just didn't realize it maybe until the reimagining. Tony, you're up second here. What do you think?
I am in complete agreement with Chris here. Bad, like he said, Bad is such a good song that you would think that it is no match for any other song, just no match. But this arrangement of Two Hearts was just as he said. Like when I heard it, when I first heard it come on, I was like, wait a second. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, this is something that I would have heard in the mid 70s, just like you said. Like I was just like, whoa, what is going on here? Just loved it from top to bottom. Listened to it twice because I was like, did I just hear what I thought I heard? And I was like, yep, I sure did. This is incredible. I liked it. I liked how upbeat it seemed in this version. I really liked the harmonies. I went with Two Hearts Beat as One on this one also.
All right, all right. Todd, you get to take us home on round 7 here.
Interesting. Yeah, this was close. Maybe not as close as Tony and Christopher were saying, but yeah, I get that it was close. Let me start with Two Hearts Beat as One. One thing is I'm a big fan of rhythm guitarists. Everybody likes like the face melting guitar solo stuff. I love a good solid. I had the Chic album in middle school, and Nile Rodgers is the guy, and I listened to that over and over. Even when disco wasn't cool, I still listened to it. And John Lennon, I think Steve Cropper, Chrissie Hynde, these are like all my favorite guys. And the Edge, I think, is up there with it. He's no Nile Rodgers, but he's up there, with that stuff. And so it was kind of interesting to hear him playing these kind of like funky, 90 kind of chords on his acoustic guitar and doing that. I kind of liked it. It was panned a little bit, which I didn't like. Maybe that's going too far back into the 70s, with the panning. But I did like this. But then again, there's Bad. The thing about Bad is it always struck me as like it's minimalism. It's like a minimalist composition, sort of how it gets going. It's like Stephen Reich or Philip Glass or something like that. And that's why I've always loved that. It feels like they're even sneaking in a little bit of classical influence into this. And the way he plays it on the acoustic guitar and the way he adds in the delay and he does it's just so good. It's just hypnotic and it's fantastic. And it just keeps building. And I think the cellos really, really work. It just keeps building. And it's hard to build an acoustic, song like that without sounding like a shitty drum circle, and it just really, really works and keeps building and building. And so for me, this wasn't quite as close, but I thought Bad was a little bit better.
Okay, so once again we have a contrarian here, and we have a split, but Two Hearts wins out here in round 7, taking us into round 8, which is probably a little bit of a letdown from round 7. We have Every Breaking Wave from Songs of Innocence going up against Miracle Drug from How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. And Tony, you lead us off in this round.
So yeah, Miracle Drug from How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. I really liked that album as a whole. That was one of those albums that got me back into U2. I just like it. I love the sound that they have on that, and I really like the original version of Miracle Drug a lot. I think it's a really cool. Not the subject matter notwithstanding, just the groove is so good, and the guitar. I love the guitar playing on that song. I think it's a pretty good song. I didn't think this reimagining was nearly as good. I thought it was a step backward. Every Breaking Wave, I really liked this version of the song. I wasn't super familiar with it from Songs of Innocence. I'm sure I've heard it a couple of times, but I don't know. I just felt when I heard I was listening to it, and the thing that stood out was hearing every dog on the street knows that we're in love with defeat. And I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful.
I put that in my notes too,
I gave it to Every Breaking Wave.
Okay, so one vote for Every Breaking Wave. Todd, you're up second this round.
Okay. Yeah, I actually wrote that same lyric down in my notes, and the other one about the broken wave on the shore. This is as far as I can reach. I thought, that's where Bono's such a good lyricist. You think like the power of the ocean, the power of these waves, all that, but it can only reach, up to that. It's like he's very good at just building metaphors and just like a couple words or just kind of sketching it, but it works perfectly. Every Breaking Wave sounded a little bit like Coldplay. I think there was some Coldplay influence on the original, but I think the lyrics, I think the melody saved the arrangement. Miracle Drug, I wasn't so excited about this one. To me, it felt undone, like a sketch, maybe a rough draft for a song. Just the percussion, the singing, the different things. I was less impressed with that. After the last round, this was a little bit of a letdown, but I gave it to Every Breaking Wave, 10-9.
Okay, so that's another for Every Breaking Wave. Chris, how are you going to vote on this one?
Both these songs are I have no problems with these songs. In fact, Miracle Drug, it's one of those songs that, again, I don't necessarily search out for, but I don't necessarily skip over when my my library's playing. And this arrangement was okay. It didn't really stand out to me in any one way or another. Every Breaking Wave is one of the better pop songs that U2 has ever written. I think that original version. I mean, it's structured. It's got the ideal structure. It's got the ideal build. And this version that's on Songs of Experience, we've heard a version of it, and actually I was a little disappointed because when they were promoting Songs of Innocence, they were going around Europe and doing promo appearances for that album. They played an acoustic version of Every Breaking Wave with Edge on the piano and Larry on a big kettle drum and Adam just sitting down playing bass, and that 4-piece arrangement was stellar. I mean, like it was so raw, and it captured like Bono's voice captured a lot of the power in the song. And this version on Songs of Surrender, I think, does well to capture that original acoustic reimagining. So I give this one 10-9 to Every Breaking Wave. Again, a little bit of a come down after round 7.
Of course, but that still gives us another unanimous round, our second unanimous round of the fight. And yes, it does include the CompuBox judges, as did round 6, where I Will Follow was a clean sweep. And we are now heading into the penultimate round. That's right, we are all the way up to round 9, where we have Walk On Ukraine, Walk On originally from All That You Can't Leave Behind, going up against The Little Things That Give You Away from Songs of Experience. Todd, you get to lead off the penultimate round here.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. So yeah, let's start with Walk On, parentheses, Ukraine, close parentheses. So this is originally written for somebody in Myanmar, I think, and you need to write songs about dead people so that you don't have to go back and change them. That's just sort of a general rule if you're going to write songs about people. I think this song, like they changed a lot of the lyrics, and the thing about the clown, I felt like the lyrics didn't work that well. I think acoustic work was really, really good. Maybe a little bit samey. It didn't feel that inspired to me. I think it's a good song. I listened to the original and I like that much better. The Little Things You Give Away, maybe this is a sequel to Within or Without You, possibly, or With or Without You. Sorry, I was thinking of the Beatles. But this one feels like churchy. In my notes, I wrote churchy in a good way. It's like a really good song. And Bono said later that he realized that he was actually writing this to himself. And if I were to write a song to myself, it would be, you should floss more. You shouldn't have sold that stock so early. And maybe you should wear more sunscreen. But anyway, so it wouldn't be quite as profound as this. And again, that just shows Bono as such a good poet, lyricist on top of everything. Also, the song builds and builds, and I think Edge does really amazing work here because he's building, like, again, these songs have to climax somehow, right? And it's acoustic, and he just plays these simple arpeggios, and just by kind of turning them in and out or adding little things to them, he really increases the tension of the song and builds it while keeping the volume down and just turning up the heat gradually. Anyway, I thought that was really, really good work that he did. This is an easy decision for me, 10-9, Little Things You Give Away.
Okay, fair enough. And Chris, you are up second here in round 9. What are your thoughts on these two songs?
Yeah, Walk On, again, comes from All That You Can't Leave Behind, their comeback album, if you will. And the original Walk On, it's such a powerful song written for, I mean, yeah, the whole writing songs about people who are still alive. I mean, yeah, that weird how that turned out. But the original version, super powerful, and they've done different versions of Walk On where Bono's changed lyrics here and there, and so changing lyrics is not anything new for these guys. That said, though, I agree with Todd in terms of some of the lyrical changes in here didn't work. It felt a little too forced, right? And maybe some of that is due to the fact that this song is 23 years old now, and so we know it intimately, but also some of the cadence and some of the rhymes, it again just felt a little contrived, whereas the original version felt a little more natural. The Little Things That Give You Away, the original version, is, in my opinion, the best song they've written since Beautiful Day. It's that good, I think. It's my third favorite U2 song of all time, and it's partly because of the last 2.5 minutes. That crescendo in the original version, when Bono starts singing about, sometimes he wakes up at 4 a.m, and that whole thing. I've written about the musical thing and what it does, and that subtle crescendo. And if you look at a waveform of the song, you'll see this giant wedge forming. And we've talked about this on several songs prior on this album Fight, that it's hard to perform a crescendo on an acoustic guitar, on an acoustic arrangement. But this arrangement of The Little Things That Give You Away pulls it off. And it sounds faithful to the original version, because that build in the original version is the best part about the original version. And the way that the layers come in and create this really dense texture is beautiful. So this was easy for me. It's Little Things 10-9.
I'm regaining some appreciation for the original again, with that playlist where I'm hearing reimagine and original. I'm regaining an appreciation for the original. I think I never gave Songs of Experience enough of a shot when it first came out, so that's one I have to re-listen to. Tony, how did you do on this round?
Yeah,
I will.
I think I agree with you, Mike. I think after hearing those comments about that song, I'm gonna have to give it another fair shot. You have to be in the right frame of mind to give an album a good shot. I went with Walk On, and the reason why I went with Walk On is because personally that song means a lot to me. And just because of when it came out and things that were going on in my life, that song resonated with me. Especially that album was really good, but that song stuck out to me. I liked this version of Little Things. To be honest, I'm not super familiar with the original, but I like this version. But I went with Walk On just because of things that it reminds me of and how it makes me feel just on my experiences.
Fair enough. This was definitely, if you look at the scorecard, one of those most debated rounds, really. Everybody kind of went back and forth, even the CompuBox judges. And this takes us down to our final round, where old U2 and new U2 meet in the middle, touch gloves, head back to their corners, and we get to talk about two just seminal U2 songs. I think I've used the phrase a few times, but wow. Pride in the Name of Love, originally from Unforgettable Fire, and 40, originally from War, and used to close all of their concerts for so many years. So again, any U2 fan knows these songs pretty well. Since this is the final round, we kind of do a reverse of the first round. So Tony, you get to lead us off here in the final round of the fight.
Okay, so this version of 40 is bloody beautiful. It just is. I really liked it. I love the fact that they closed the Songs of Surrender with this song. I think it's very appropriate that they did, because they closed so many shows with it. Pride is just another one of those iconic U2 songs, right? I'm pretty sure it's the first video I ever saw on TV because I was late to the MTV party. I loved how this song sounded tuned down. I went with Pride on this one. I think some of the magic of 40 is the fact that in concert, sometimes it is long, and I think that's some of the magic of that song, and I don't think we see that on the album version. So I went with Pride.
Okay, fair enough. Todd, you're up second here in the final round. What did you think of these two songs?
Yeah, so Pride was pretty much the song of my freshman year at Purdue. It was on every car they drove by, every frat house you walked by. Everybody was playing this everywhere, every dorm room. And so I've quite a connection to it just because it was so ambient. It just, reminds me of 1984 and 1985. I didn't like the changing of the lyrics, like taking out, I think Betrayed by a Kiss is a really, really good lyric. And I don't know why they would change that and put in, references to kind of like ripped from today's headlines. So, but anyway, I did like it. And then as it went on and on, I felt like it started to fall apart. In my notes, I say after 2:30, it's basically a mess. And this is sort of like the nightmare of U2 without the rhythm section. You know, a lot of people have said bad things about the rhythm section, and this is an example of something where you kind of need that. Maybe I just heard it too much with the rhythm section. Now on to 40. Like all great songs, one included, they wrote it really, really quickly, just banged it out. And it's funny to me that Bono just happened to have a copy of the Bible in the studio. I feel like maybe Black Sabbath or the Rolling Stones, they wouldn't have been able to get their hands on a Bible quite so easily. And so it's like a psalm. It's Psalm 40, right? It's like Daniel or something. And it's a really good psalm. I'm surprised with all my Catholic upbringing and schooling that I didn't recognize it. But anyway, it's really, really quite good. And I love that, they're singing it in these concerts. You guys like singing along like a Psalm 40. But anyway, another explanation is possibly that Bono was a time traveler from ancient Judea, which has never been disproven. So that's another theory for the lyrics. Anyway, this one to me, I gave it to 40, and I felt that was a fairly easy decision.
Yeah, I'm pretty aligned with you here, Todd. Chris gets to take us home on the final round of the fight. Chris, imbue us with your wisdom here on the last round.
The original versions of these songs, I mean, amazing, right? I mean, 40, the concert closer, the closer to the War album, and Pride actually opens up Unforgettable Fire. So in the band's track listing of their entire catalog, these two songs are actually right next to each other. And I appreciate what they tried to do on this arrangement with Pride. But personally, it didn't work as well for me. Like when Bono goes up and Edge mixes those effects when he sings "In the Name of Love," and it's all high and stuff. I miss Bono's power from his chest voice there, right? And again, I said this last album fight. There's nothing wrong with falsetto necessarily, and Bono's falsetto is fine. It just doesn't work as well here as I think it could have. And then 40, I think to me is. It's the perfect closer, and it's one of those indestructible songs. And this arrangement, I thought, was haunting and beautiful. I gave this to 40, 10-9.
Yes, it was almost unanimous for 40. Actually, Tony was the only dissenting voice here. But
there's always one.
When I hear
always one.
There's always one. When I hear 40, it takes me back to those early concerts that I went to in my teens and early 20s, where they always closed with that song, and it just warms up my heart every time I hear it. And what also warms up my heart is getting to the end of an album fight where we have a final score. And this is a I hate to say the word out loud, but we have a tie.
What?
We have a tie, 285 to 285. And one judge, Todd, went for side 4. One judge, Tony, went for side 1. And one judge, Chris, went 95 to 95, baby.
And one judge betrayed with a kiss.
Very well, very good.
Good one.
If we use CompuBox as our tiebreaker, which we kind of have to, U2 side 4 wins by 1 point.
Oh, wow!
Oh,
wow!
Interesting.
475 to 474. Yes,
that surprises me.
So
that is incredible how close that is. Incredible.
Yeah.
We barely have a winner, but we do have a winner here, and that would be side 4. And I can't argue with the results here. I enjoyed listening to these so many times that, like I said earlier, I made a playlist where it's new version, old version, and it has been on cycle on my phone ever since I made the playlist. We are into the post fight, so let's hear what Richard has to say, and then I'll double back to talk to the judges one last time.
Hey guys, well, yep, that was a close one. The numbers did kind of indicate a closer fight. My personal card, I had it 96 to 95 for 4. That could have very easily been just a draw on my card too. I think this is just a good indicator of when you got somebody's greatest hits and they've got the two best sides of their greatest hits, it's going to be close. I mean, I don't think this is any big surprise. It was a really, really interesting fight. And I will say we had the single best round of any of the other fights in round 7 with Bad versus Two Hearts Beat As One. My two favorite songs from the entire collection. So great fight. Back to you guys.
Wow, it doesn't get more unanimous than that. Richard actually agreed with us. That does not happen very, very often. So I'm going to start off with Todd, who subbed in at the last minute. Thank you again, Todd, for doing that.
No problem.
Final thoughts here on the fight.
I said a lot of it, during round 4, but it really made me think about U2's career, sort of, like into 3 different sections, and thinking about that. I really like what Christopher said about reimagining a song versus just stripping it down. And so I would like to listen again with that thought in mind, because I think that would have helped me maybe solidify some of my thoughts on this. But I thought it was super interesting. And, again, early U2 is my favorite U2. And I've been listening to that a lot more since we did this last week or the week before.
Yeah. Oh, I'm building more U2 playlists just because of this. Not that I ever stopped loving U2, but I think I kind of limped away from them a little bit, and I'm coming back again. This album has really reminded me why I love this band so much. Tony, let's recap here. Again, welcome back. Glad to have you back in Album Fight. What were your takeaways here?
My takeaways were similar to Todd's in with regards to early U2. It's interesting about the breaking it into 3 eras, because although we look at it like I said, I tapped out in the 90s and then I came back. So, it really is 3 eras of U2. This has me very excited to do a deep dive into the last era, though. Even though, like the first era is definitely my favorite, and then Joshua Tree is really good. I really enjoy that record, but I'm really excited through this album fight to jump into those last few albums and see what I may have been missing.
There are definitely some gems on both Innocence and Experience. Really worth putting some time in and listening to those. I mean, these guys are professionals. They've been doing this a long time. Those songs are definitely worth listening to. And Chris, we're going to wrap it up with you. Thank you again for bringing up our bass, so to speak. Pun intended. But to have a professor of music come on to a show that's about appreciating music just means a lot to us. So thanks for coming in. Final thoughts from you.
Well, thank you for having me back. I love doing these things. And yeah, I guess you could call me a professional U2 apologist, right? I mean, I am a professional music scholar, and my job really is to analyze U2's music. So, and you'd think that, given that job, I wouldn't get sick of this music. But and it's not that I get sick of this music, but I go through phases and stuff. But the release of Songs of Surrender has, of course, gotten my mind going about these new reimagined arrangements. But I think it's a brilliant marketing ploy if you really think about it, because it's helping us, maybe even making us go back and listen to all the other 14 albums beforehand. And if you really weren't into the 90s, maybe this will help you it'll help you reconsider the 90s, because I love the 90s. Octane Baby's my favorite, right? Or maybe you're a newer fan and you like the 2000s and the 2010s, and you don't know much about War or October or Boy. Then you hear Two Hearts Beat As One, you're like, well, damn, now I want to hear the original, right? And so it's a brilliant way of getting old fans to reconsider their likes and dislikes. It's a brilliant way of getting new fans to explore music, and it's just, I was nervous for it, but now I'm glad it exists. So thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
I can't top that. So we will continue doing album fights, and of course we've kind of done our U2 for a little while. We'll probably have more U2 albums in the ring further down the road, but it's time to bring some more bands into the ring. Pete and I are working on the next matchups. Look forward to putting these together. Look forward to having all of you guys back for future fights, and obviously our listeners. We hope you enjoy what you hear. We hope you listen to these albums. We do this because we love music. So just more to come. Thank you once again, everybody, for joining. And